welcome back. It's time for our How You Doing Halloween costume contest. We do it every year. It's always a lot of fun, so let's get started.
Our first caress.
Wendy Williams, the movie. How you doing? It had sex, it had drugs, it had date rape, it had infidelity. It had a lot of crazy and fat shaming. Before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. I was very enthused and excited about the idea of a Wendy Williams biopic because she talks so much about her life, and I know it's very entertaining, it's interesting, she's been through a lot, but watching it, I was not impressed and I was very disappointed. First off, I want to say, Sierra Payton, who portrayed Wendy in her movie, you did an amazing job. At first, watching you, I was like, the acting is a bit weird and wonky and I'm not into it, but as the movie progressed, you really embodied Wendy Williams. The cadence in your voice, the way you acted, it was very her, and so I applaud you for that.
Real talk? What the hell is going on with Wendy? I mean, everybody's been asking me behind the scenes, behind the hype. I mean, Wendy, how you really doing?
The movie started out with the actress talking directly to the camera. I was like, what in the early 2000s BET movie is this? No, I just could have done without it. When the movie started, I realized quickly it was going to be narrated. I could have done without that. I didn't need the actress to narrate the show. And even if they wanted to do a narration, why not just have Wendy do it in her own voice?
Wendy, we just bought you a size 12. Now we're gonna have to go and get a 14. What are you gonna do next, girl?
She always said that she was bullied by her parents and family members for her weight. She does showcase that a lot in the show. Her mom seemed like a free spirit, just like say whatever is on her mind type woman who cared a lot about what people thought. It was just a weird portrayal of her childhood, but it was her childhood, so it is what it is.
I was supposed to win.
Turns out.
I thought the scene when she was playing musical chairs at the birthday party was very funny, but how was it like necessary to the greater scheme of what the movie was trying to showcase? I don't know. Maybe was she trying to say that all my life I was always thinking about me, number one, no matter what. I was always going to make sure that I won. We saw in the movie her peeing the bed, which was something that I've heard for years. She said she peed the bed until a little later on in life. So that wasn't like surprising, and that's not really a big story to me. A lot of kids pee the bed later on in life for various reasons. It could be medical. She had a black housekeeper, which was very interesting to me. I didn't know that she had that growing up. I saw the black lady come in and like took the piss stained sheets. I was like, what is this? Who is this woman? Are we gonna address like what her role is in this household? She must be a housekeeper. I didn't know that 2 teachers from Ocean Township had money like that. Seeing Wendy coming out of college and like starting her first little gig on the radio station, I started to see more actors come into the story, and I must say, their acting was nothing to rave about. No one's winning an Oscar, but at least the actors were good looking.
You can let yourself out.
That date rape scene was a lot to watch. It wasn't like very gory or anything like that, but that's something we never knew about Wendy Williams. She's never talked about it before that I know of. I'm curious what has happened to that singer from back in the day.
We don't do that here. Not on the radio.
Yeah, right, I know, okay? But listeners want to know this type of stuff. I mean, they have a right to know.
It's revolutionary.
I thought it was so funny when she was working at this place and she was like doing celebrity gossip, and the boss runs in the room like, that's revolutionary. Revolutionary? Wasn't every tabloid talking about this type of thing? Maybe people weren't really doing this on the radio, but I don't know if it was revolutionary. I think that was just her like inflating her ego a little bit.
I went alone, and I went in secret. I didn't tell him or anyone else.
She aborted her first child when she was in her early 20s, first job in New York. She was dating this guy, Eric B. He ruined her credit. I think she mentioned something like that before. And she aborted her first child. I didn't know that because of that. What happened then, and all the miscarriages that she's openly talked about after. She kind of felt like maybe if the reason I'm going through all this hardship is because I gave away or took the life of my first child. That's why I'm not being blessed with another one when I do want one. That was very interesting to hear because a lot of women think that way. A lot of women go through instances in their lives where they're not ready for a child, and circumstances, I should say, they're not ready for a child and they don't keep it. And when they really do want a child, they can't have one. So they are left with this guilt that if you didn't give away your blessing in the beginning, you'd probably be, more blessed now. It was very weird that she refused to talk about her first marriage at all in the movie. It's like she mentioned, there's a first marriage, but it's not enough to talk about. We're gonna skip over that part of my life. I didn't get that. Even if it wasn't your best moment in time, even if it was a short Kim Kardashian 72-day wedding or marriage, whatever, I still would have wanted to hear about it. I still would have wanted to understand that story and why you fell in love with this guy and why you left him so quickly. Kelvin, we finally get to Kelvin. She meets him in a club. She's smitten by him. He's her type. He's hood and he's sensitive. I know a lot of girls like that type of guy, and so it makes sense for Wendy to want to try and be with someone like that. Kelvin looked like a sweetheart. He was attentive, he was caring, he was loving. I feel like he saw a rising star and he just decided to latch on. I don't know if he really loved her, but they seemed to really be enamored with each other and they had a really good thing going. All the miscarriages, he was there with her, he was holding her hand through it all. It was so beautiful to watch them as a young black couple. Then she was pregnant with her little Kevin, and this time she had a new doctor and he's like, just be on bed rest, you'll be fine. During this entire time, Kelvin is cheating on her. She finds out, she stays with him. And at this point, a lot of us as viewers are wondering why. She's mentioned it a few times in passing, but never really in depth as to why she stuck with him. She's like, well, as a woman, you have to be smart about these things. And watching the movie, I'm like, there were plenty of opportunities to leave because you were the breadwinner. But I felt like Wendy had this mentality or this thing in her head, like she is not the breadwinner and she's living in the 1950s. Like she cannot leave him until her son is grown. A lot of people come from broken homes. A lot of people are well adjusted in spite of it. It's not the end of the world. And I get that Wendy grew up in a home where there's a mom and a dad and she wanted that for her kid. But it was so dysfunctional that I don't know if it was more harm than good, Throughout the entire marriage, he was consistently cheating on her, spending her money, taking care of different girls, putting them up in condos, buying houses for them, doing all these things, buying cars with all of her money, and yet she still sees that happening, and she makes this man her business manager. He's arrogant, he's hood, and he doesn't have respect for time or anyone else. And so he keeps costing her deals, money, and like taking charge of everything, instead of coming back to her and saying, hey, this money is coming in, you want to do that project or not? He's like, no, I don't think it's good enough for you, we're not taking it. And so that's why I didn't even consult you. It's what I choose for your career that's going to happen, not what you want for your career. I was even shocked to hear that she did a pilot with Monique. I'm like, what?
Charlemagne, who's that?
Charlemagne played a huge role in Wendy Williams' career back in the day when she was on radio. And I thought it was very odd that Charlemagne was mentioned once in this entire movie, out of like 50 scenes of her being shot in a studio with a bunch of other people. I'm like, Charlemagne was sitting beside you all this time and we never hear you mention him, we never saw him. And the actor you chose to play him looked nothing like Charlemagne. I felt like it was like a slight dig. You had him in one scene, he had one line, and that was it. We heard of him never again, we saw him never again. I thought you and Charlemagne were cool, Wendy. What's up with that? During her radio career, we know Wendy had a very reckless mouth. She came at Whitney, she came at Mariah, she came at Beyonce and the Destiny's Child. Like, she did not care who it was. She would say the foulest stuff to you and just be all up in your business. Now, she talked about Diddy, and Diddy didn't like that. So the girls from Total that she claimed weren't getting paid came to the studio to kick her ass. I remember this story. She's talked about it before. That scene was not as dramatic as I wanted it to be. The acting there was a little
Wendy, what you talking about, Wendy? What are all these people doing here?
Come here, you all right?
Okay.
If that's how you're gonna portray the fight scene, then don't put it in there at all. And speaking of fight scene, I do remember Angie. Y'all know Angie. She's on the radio. She is like a Wendy Williams type person, but she's not as foul with it. She's more friendly with the celebrities more than like, you know, gossiping behind their backs. Wendy and her had a fight, and Angie talked about it on her show. Angie said, I talked about Wendy and her husband like being in trouble and the whole cheating stuff, and Wendy didn't like me talking about her, and so Wendy came to my studio and wanted to fight me. She had a mop stick and she was trying to hit me with it. And so why did you not talk about that when you were the aggressor, Wendy? I'm just curious.
Hot topics.
Hot topics. Hot topics. Wendy Williams, I like that stuff.
Now we're at the Wendy Williams talk show. She gets her own TV show finally, what she's always wanted. This is a dream gig for any broadcaster. Prime spot, you're the only person there, you're not on a freaking panel, you know, all the money comes to you. Kevin is now seen to be portraying the exact same thing we've heard from a lot of ex-staffers at the show. He was arrogant, he was bossy, he controlled everything, he was abusive to her, he was abusive to them, he was throwing things all the time, no one could talk to her, all these things. The little scene that I saw in the boardroom,
The table.
I'm like, this is a microscopic view into what really happened there. I feel like he was all that times 10. People have been saying this for years. Wendy has denied it for years. In this movie, we saw a glimpse into what it was. I would love for someone, you know who I want to come out and say something? There were two Normans. When Wendy said that stupid thing about HBCUs on her show, she needed someone to get fired for it so that she could take the heat off of herself. I mean, no one told her to say that dumb shit. She said it out of her own accord. She fired the white Norman. I would love for him to speak out as to why they fired him and what he experienced on the show. Also, one of her longtime employees from the 6-week sneak peek, I cannot remember his name, but he was her stylist. He's no longer on the show. I'd like to hear from people like that who's been there for years from day one. What was it really like on this show? Was she being honest in the movie? Because it almost feels like she's saying Kevin was the reason why I didn't have a great work environment for my staff. But did she contribute to that at all? And did she try to protect her staff at all? Like, what was it like? I really want to know that.
We live in a house in Jersey, not far from y'all place, actually.
She's at the height of her career. She is finding out that Kelvin has a whole home with a new girl. She's like, what the hell is going on? He's buying property with my money, and he has a whole woman there feeding his friends chips and dip, acting like she owns the place. She goes to the house in the movie, and she's like looking at cars, big chandeliers in the house, a pool in the back. They have a dog. They have a dog. This is a whole family, guys. I don't know how I'd react to that. And she's like spray painting Wendy and Kevin forever on the driveway. I'm like, I wouldn't have spray painted that. I'd have more likely spray painted something like cheater or I want a divorce. But that was really funny to see that scene, but it was really like, wow, you really endured all of this throughout your marriage. The fainting scene was really funny to watch. I didn't know if it was necessary, but I think it was an iconic moment in her life, so I guess why not add it? The actress did a pretty accurate portrayal of how ridiculous that fainting scene looked.
Our son saw you drop to the ground on TV. I think you need some help.
I cannot imagine going through all this infidelity for 20 plus years, trying to hold down a career, a kid, keep your marriage together by a thread, then like relapsing and drinking, being put into a mental institution, like, okay, rehab by your husband, then in rehab having someone sneak you in a phone to find out later, oh, he's not only cheating with her in the house that he bought with my money, calling it an investment property.
She been in my investment property.
That's all bad enough, but your girlfriend is pregnant now. I cannot stay at this point. You have made it impossible for me to forgive you and move on. That's what it felt like. That's the story she was going with. I get it. Some people can really forgive a lot. Cheating, we can move past it. We can work around it. but a whole new family that's like, okay, I really cannot do anything with this.
I'm back. Got to be zipping and doing because I'm about to be a single lady.
After all that's said and done, she finally divorces him. He has no credits on the show. He's kicked out. She's ushering a brand new era of the Wendy Williams show, allegedly, because I'm yet to see this new thing that you're talking about. It's still the same old Wendy show. If nothing, it has declined, to be honest. The movie ends and you see Wendy, like the actress playing Wendy, talking to us again, because the whole movie is like she's walking to the double doors, she pauses, tells us this entire life story. Now she's done telling the story, we go back to her at the double doors, and then it's actually Wendy. I was like, I could have done without this moment. It just made the movie that much more cheesy. Overall thoughts? This movie was a bunch of different moments in her life stitched together, and it was haphazardly, it was not cohesive. You saw her be raped. We saw her talking to Whitney, like a clip of it, and Mariah, and you saw different little things happening here and there, the cheating. Did we really see how she felt about all of these things happening to her, her career going up, and the moves, the ebbs and the flows? You didn't see or get a feeling of what was going on inside of her. Who did she confide in? What was going on in your mind? It was just like, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened, and we all know this already because we've watched your career for 30 years. But no one really knows how you felt about all these instances and these events. So this was a missed opportunity. I guess I'll have to just watch a documentary to see how she actually feels about any of it. I don't know what Rotten Tomatoes is giving it, but if I was about to rate this movie, I'd give it a solid 15%. Anyways, those are my thoughts on this movie. I do love Wendy Williams. I do love her story. Her movie was trashed though. I will be reacting to more movies down the line if I find it interesting. If you have any you'd like me to watch and react to, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share if you care. Click the notification bell, baby. Bye. Hey, beautiful humans. I have so much more content. Come on, watch my shit.